On May 3rd, 2026, Ricky Hampton, the rapper fans know as Finesse2tymes, went public with discovery that sent shockwaves across social media. Sitting in front of his phone, he fed his own record contract into ChatGPT and watched as the breakdown came back brutally direct. There was no polished industry spin, no legal jargon dressed up to sound harmless, just a cold summary of what he had actually signed. According to the analysis, the agreement handed Mob Ties and Atlantic Records permanent ownership of his masters, broad control over key music decisions, and the power to recoup every expense attached to his name, from jewelry and private jets to luxury hotels, before he would ever see meaningful money. The fallout was immediate and deeply personal. Finesse didn't keep his reaction behind closed doors. He jumped on Instagram Live and admitted he felt played. In a moment that quickly spread online, he said plainly that he had been gotten over on and asked if anyone could help buy him out of the deal before he snapped and did something that could ruin his life. That's a headline hanging over this story in 2026. A rapper with gold plaques, viral records, and massive visibility is locked into a contract he now believes stripped him of nearly everything that really matters. What makes the situation even more dramatic is how high his star had risen. This is the same Finesse2tymes who came home from federal prison in July 2022 and turned his momentum into one of rap's fastest comeback stories. In just a few months, he was back in the spotlight, dominating conversation with a breakout presence that felt bigger than a normal rapper turn. Back End exploded online, YouTube numbers climbed into the tens of millions, and TikTok helped amplify his buzz into something much larger than regional fame. From the outside, it looked like a dream relaunch. Behind the scenes, though, the business paperwork was telling a very different story. At the center of the storm is Jay Prince Jr., who signed Finesse through Mob Ties, the label built under the shadow of one of the most powerful names in Southern hip-hop. The deal, as Finesse now describes it, was far more than a music agreement. He says it effectively gave away rights tied to his recordings, his tours, his merchandise, his brand, his image, and virtually every stream of income connected to his career. In other words, the comeback everyone celebrated may have come wrapped in a contract designed to control the full machine that his talent would power. The twist that makes this saga feel almost unbelievable is the role of Jay Prince Sr. himself. For decades, Jay Prince has been viewed as a giant in rap business, a figure credited with building power for Southern artists and navigating the industry with unmatched savvy. But Finesse says that same legendary figure told him he didn't need a lawyer to review the paperwork. To a newly released artist trying to rebuild his life and surrounded by powerful names, that advice didn't feel suspicious. It felt like trust. It felt like mentorship. It felt like being welcomed into an elite circle. Years later, that decision appears to be haunting him. Now the rapper is so frustrated that he has been trying to release music outside the system that controls him. He even pushed out a guerrilla-style project through a YouTube playlist because, by his own account, he was desperate to get music to fans without waiting on the label structure he no longer believes in. But even that move comes with risk. If the contract says what he claims it says, then almost any attempt to move independently could open the door to legal trouble. For an artist who built his name on hustle and survival, the irony is brutal. He may have the audience, the songs, and the attention, but not the freedom to fully capitalize on any of it. To understand how things reached this point, you have to look at what Finesse represented when he walked out of prison in 2022. He wasn't just another rapper trying to restart his career. He was a full-on moment. Born Ricky Hampton on June 10th, 1992, in Memphis, Tennessee, he came from a city where rap is inseparable from real-life tension, survival, and street credibility. Memphis music has long carried a distinct weight, raw, personal, and unfiltered, and Finesse had been grinding long before the mainstream took notice. His YouTube channel launched in 2018, and he started releasing records in 2019. But before his music could fully take off, legal troubles pulled him away from the momentum he was trying to build. His federal case stemmed from a 2017 incident connected to a nightclub shooting allegation in Arkansas. Prosecutors said he fired an AK-style pistol after an argument, and he later pleaded guilty to being a felon in possession of a firearm. In December 2018, he was sentenced to 5 years in federal prison. When he was released on July 1st, 2022, he came home to a completely different landscape. one where social media could turn a comeback into a career overnight. Within months, he was not only back in the mix, he was signed to a layered industry structure involving Moneybagg Yo's Bread Gang, Jay, Prince Jr.'s Mob Ties, and Atlantic Records. That timeline still feels dizzying. By September 2022, Finesse had reportedly repaired his relationship with Moneybagg Yo, someone he had known for years through the Memphis scene. He signed to Bread Gang and dropped a collaboration with Moneybagg called Black Visa. Soon after, Mob Ties entered the picture, and through that connection came Atlantic. On paper, it looked major, a hometown cosign, powerful distribution, and the Prince family name behind him. For many artists, that kind of alliance would read like a career jackpot. For Finesse, it may have been a moment the trap quietly shut. The cultural momentum only made everything look shinier. Gucci Flow, with Gucci Mane, helped keep the energy up, and Back In became the kind of viral record labels dream about. It reached the Billboard Hot 100, dominated online conversation, and pulled huge YouTube numbers. Industry eyes were suddenly fixed on him. But while the public saw a rapper in liftoff mode, the business machinery was already positioned to benefit from every gain in a far more permanent way than he may have understood. That brings the story back to the Prince family legacy, which is impossible to separate from the emotional weight of the deal. Jay. Prince Sr. built Rap-A-Lot Records out of Houston's Fifth Ward and helped turn Southern rap into a true force long before the rest of the industry gave the region proper respect. He helped shape the Ghetto Boys, discovered Scarface, and built a reputation that extended far beyond music. He became the kind of executive whose influence touched the streets, the boardroom, and the culture all at once. His name came to represent power, strategy, and survival in a ruthless business. Jay. Prince Jr. was born into that legacy and started Mob Ties in 2017 with every major advantage that kind of surname provides. The family already had an extraordinary track record. His brother Jazz Prince is famously tied to Drake's early rise after spotting him online and helping connect him to Lil Wayne. So when Finesse was approached by Mob Ties, it didn't feel like dealing with amateurs. It felt like entering a dynasty. That is exactly why the trust factor mattered so much. When somebody from that world tells you this is the right move and tells you not to worry about extra legal review, that advice can sound less like pressure and more like protection. But the structure Finesse later described was anything but artist-friendly. He said the revenue split gave him 35% of music income, while Mob Ties got 35% and Jay, Prince Sr., serving as manager, got 30%. Even before recoupment, that meant the artist at the center of the entire business was taking the smallest position in a setup where others controlled a larger share. Then comes a detail that makes deals like this especially punishing: recoupment. Every advance, every flashy perk, every flight, hotel stay, and luxury item can go on the artist's account. Until that balance is paid back, real royalty money can remain out of reach no matter how successful the records become. And because this was described as a 360 arrangement, it didn't stop with music. Touring, merchandising, appearances, endorsements, and any brand extension tied to Finesse's name could all become part of the label's financial participation. According to the AI breakdown he shared, the contract also included automatic extension language and an assignment clause. That means the deal could continue beyond its initial period and, even more troubling, be transferred to another company without his approval. For an artist, that kind of language can turn a contract from a business partnership into something that feels like ownership over a career. By the end of 2022, Finesse released his commercial debut mixtape, 90 Days, under the Mob Ties, Atlantic, and Bread Gang umbrella. The project came with major cosigns, including Lil Baby, Moneybagg Yo, and Gucci Mane. From a celebrity news angle, everything about the rollout screamed success. The features were huge, the comeback narrative was irresistible, and his buzz was real. But commercial visibility does not guarantee financial freedom. An artist can appear to be winning in public while earning very little in private if the paperwork is structured to prioritize everyone else first. That private frustration became public in January 2026 when Finesse went to Instagram and openly blasted the deal. He didn't hint. He didn't soften the language. He said it was the worst agreement he had ever signed and begged to be released from Mob Ties. He lamented that artists without his kind of traction seemed to have access he didn't despite his plaques and proven records. He argued that his talent was being wasted and made it clear he no longer wanted to complete the album under the existing setup. It wasn't just anger. It sounded like exhaustion. Then the drama took an even uglier turn in March 2026 when Prince Jr. responded online not with a business explanation, but with taunts about Finesse's appearance. Instead of addressing the contract concerns, the exchange devolved into personal jabs on Instagram. The internet treated it like entertainment, but beneath the spectacle was a much more serious reality. One man was saying he felt trapped in a career-defining agreement, and the executive on the other side appeared more interested in online trolling than publicly discussing the substance of the dispute. By May 3rd, 2026, the emotional center of the story hit a new peak. Finesse returned to Instagram and showed himself using ChatGPT to analyze the actual contract live. He said he had finally located the paperwork and had also tried to get lawyers involved, but according to him, even attorneys were hesitant to fully step into the fight because of who was on the other side. Whether that hesitation was about cost, power, access, or industry politics, the message was the same. He felt isolated. So he turned to AI for a plain English breakdown, and the result only deepened his panic. What he said that breakdown confirmed was devastating. The label, he claimed, held permanent ownership of his masters. The agreement reached into his name and likeness. Recoupable expenses had stacked up against his account. The contract could be extended. It could be assigned. And walking away could trigger legal consequences. In the caption he posted afterward, Finesse said he had moved on loyalty, believed it was an honor to have Prince Sr. in his corner, and now felt that trust had been badly misplaced. His words were raw, emotional, and impossible to ignore. He wasn't speaking like someone caught in a routine label disagreement. He was speaking like someone who believed the system had swallowed him whole. What makes his case resonate so strongly is that it shines a spotlight on how 360 deals really function in practice. The label's argument in deals like these is usually simple. If they are investing in an artist's entire brand, they should participate in the full universe of revenue that brand creates. In theory, that can sound fair. In reality, if the percentages are aggressive, the expenses are heavily recoupable, and the artist gives up ownership on top of everything else, the result can be financially suffocating. That's how someone could appear successful in every visible way and still feel broke, powerless, and boxing behind the scenes. The Prince name only intensifies the symbolism. Prince Sr. is one of the most respected and feared figures in hip-hop business history, a man whose reputation was built in part on protecting artists and outmaneuvering predatory industry forces. That legacy is real. But Finesse's story suggests something far more complicated, that the same business knowledge once used to shield artists from exploitation can, in another generation and another context, be used to lock an artist into a highly one-sided arrangement. That contradiction is part why this story has captured so much attention. Financially, the number floating around the situation is staggering. Industry observers have estimated the total value tied up in this deal at around $13 million when projected music income, touring, merchandise appearances, and future brand revenue are taken into account. That figure isn't just about cash on hand. It reflects the long-term earning power of a rapper whose catalog, audience, and visibility all have real commercial weight. Finesse himself has mentioned making money elsewhere, including on subscription-based platforms. But compared with the scale of what his music career could potentially generate under a stronger deal, those gains appear relatively small. As of now, the business side has remained largely quiet. Atlantic and Mob Ties have not publicly offered detailed responses to the contract allegations Finesse has laid out online. That silence is telling in its own way. Record disputes are rarely argued in public with full transparency, especially when the contract language is likely to be the strongest weapon. Meanwhile, Finesse's legal options appear difficult. Claims like duress or unconscionability are hard to prove, especially when courts generally prefer to uphold signed agreements unless the facts are extraordinary. A buyout is another possible route, but if the contract is truly worth millions over time, the price to free him would almost certainly be massive. The pressure surrounding him also extends beyond music. He has been dealing with separate legal and personal issues, including a Texas warrant tied to alleged threats in a custody-related dispute, and a lawsuit connected to a 2023 nightclub shooting in Georgia, where multiple people were injured. Whether those matters ultimately reshape his future or not, they add to the sense that he is carrying pressure from every direction at once. When someone in that position starts speaking publicly about crashing out or throwing his life away, it lands as more than frustration. It sounds like a man who feels cornered. In the bigger picture, this is about far more than one rapper and one label. It's about the long-standing way the music business monetizes talent, especially talent that comes from vulnerable circumstances and is pushed to move fast when opportunity suddenly appears. The digital era made 360 deals more common because labels want a share of everything once album sales stopped carrying the same weight. What artists often give up in exchange for that backing can be enormous. Finesse's situation has reopened that conversation in a very public, very painful way. And maybe that is why one line from him has hit so hard across the culture. Y'all got me good. It's simple, but it says everything. It captures trust, regret, embarrassment, and awakening all at once. It reflects a moment an artist realizes that the glossy parts of the industry, the cosigns, the jewelry, the trips, the celebrity access, the major label infrastructure, can all sit on top of paperwork that quietly gives away the future. By the time the truth is fully understood, undoing it can be painfully difficult. Today, Finesse2tymes is still fighting in public, still pushing music where he can, and still asking for a path out. Prince Jr. has kept the social media drama alive without publicly addressing the contract in detail. Mob ties in Atlantic have kept their distance from the online firestorm, and the central tension remains unchanged. A rapper who built his comeback on grit and momentum says he is locked into a deal worth millions that he may never truly benefit from. In his telling, the person known for finesse got out-finessed not in the streets, but in a boardroom with signatures, percentages, clauses, and a contract he signed without independent legal protection. In the end, that may be the real cautionary tale. Not the Instagram lives, not the trolling, not even the AI breakdown that pushed the story into overdrive. The real lesson is that the contract is the story. The applause, the plaques, the viral records, the famous cosigns, and the comeback headlines can all become secondary if the paperwork beneath them takes ownership of the very career they were supposed to elevate. And until a buyout appears, a court steps in, or the label chooses to let him walk, Finesse2tymes appears to remain exactly where he says he is, locked in.